This is a video response to the video entitled Mohammed-Aisha. This is where Shamoun and Wood present misinformation and misrepresent the Muslim position. So I'd like to correct them on that before they mislead others. First off, Wood goes on to talk about the first period and the female child not being ready for childbirth at that time, according to medical expertise. Great stuff. Thanks for bringing it up. What has this got to do with the Muslim position? The Muslim position, in fact, if you actually bothered to do your research, you would realize Islamic law teaches us to only marry those who are physically mature, yes, physically mature, and mentally mature. So if medical expertise is telling us, hold on, this girl is not ready for marriage, then the Muslims hold back, because we follow Islamic law. It teaches us to only marry those who are physically and mentally mature. So you argued a straw man there by misrepresenting the Muslim position. We do not have this obligation where we hand our daughters over at the onset of her first period. You need to have a rethink here, but you've got further issues here, because if you actually bothered to research Jewish history at the time of Jesus, peace be upon him, you would know that these Jews were consummating marriage, yes, that's sex, with girls who had reached their third period. That's just 3 months after the first period. So according to your medical expertise, or medical information rather, these girls were not ready for childbirth. But where's your condemnation of the Jews at the time? But furthermore, where is Jesus' condemnation of this practice? In fact, it looks like Jesus gave tacit approval to this. So it's quite embarrassing for you. But to further strengthen this point, if you look at the relationship between Joseph and Mary, it is thought to be of a similar nature. So it's always interesting to note the hypocritical depths some Christians will go in order to mudsling at the reputation of Muhammad. Wood goes on to make bigger blunders still. His next claims are quite astonishing. I hope you're sitting down. Wait for it. He actually claims the Quran in Surah 65 verse 4 allows sex with prepubescent girls. That's girls who have not reached puberty. And he also claims that Muhammad did this, i.e. have sex with Aisha when she had not reached puberty. This is boulder dash from Wood, absolute unadulterated nonsense, far from scholarly and offensive to good Christians, Muslims and the intellect alike. All Wood tries to do here is distort the words of the Quran, because you can read Surah 65 verse 4 of the Quran yourselves and realize that it doesn't support Wood's claims one iota. Like I say, Wood is just trying to distort the words of the Quran, distort history and distort the relationship between Muhammad and Aisha. No scholar agrees with him. Islamic law doesn't agree with him. And again, how many times do I need to say it? Islamic law is based on the Quran and the actions of the Prophet Muhammad, and Islamic law is telling us sex with females who have not hit puberty, i.e. who are not physically and mentally mature, is not allowed. So the Quran is not supporting sex with prepubescent girls, and Muhammad did not commit this crime either. But Wood obviously is completely alone in his little corner, as all authority, scholarship, Islamic law, commentators of the Quran, none of these people support Wood at all. And they're all on my side, which tells us that sex with immature girls is not allowed, but Wood claims it is. This says more about Wood's mindset and lack of scholarship than anything else. Just as you begin to think the lack of scholarship and the misinformation being presented is not going to get any worse, what happens? Shamoun enters the scene. That's Shamoun, yes. What does he do? Does he correct his colleague, David Wood? No. He goes off on a diatribe, a mudslinging diatribe of his own. In order to try and support Wood's claims, he brings forward a couple of hadith which mention Aisha and dolls. He rips them totally out of context in order to pursue his agenda. The first one he brings forward is Aisha playing with dolls, but he forgets to mention that this is about her playing with dolls prior to moving in with the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So i.e. she was a kid at this time, and it was not when she was married to the Prophet Muhammad. It was not when she was living with the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So Shamoun tries to present it as though she was playing with dolls whilst living with Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, after consummation, which is just, for the lack of a better term, just pure silliness. Has Shamoun got no perception of time, or is it really a case of throwing out all reason and context out of the window just to attack Muhammad's reputation with wicked slanders? We know Aisha had reached puberty at the time of consummation. This is through Islamic law. No scholars claim that Aisha had not reached puberty. None of the early scholars. Go and read their material for yourselves. Nobody supports Shamoun's claims whatsoever. Shamoun also mentions the hadith where Aisha is moving in with the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and she takes her dolls with her. But Shamoun forgets to mention that she's moving in, she's going in to live with the Prophet Muhammad. She's moving out of her parents' house and going to live with the Prophet Muhammad. Now, it's only natural for her to take her stuff with her, to take clothes, other necessities, and she took stuff of a sentimental value, such as her dolls. It does not mean that she's still playing with dolls. No, Islamic law tells us she is physically and mentally mature. Shamoun just rips it totally out of context. And if Shamoun actually, I don't know if Shamoun's ever lived with a girlfriend or a wife, and the lady's moved from her parents' house to live with Shamoun, he will know that they bring a whole plethora of stuff. They bring their clothes naturally, makeup, shoes. Trust me, they bring shoes, and they bring more shoes, handbags, and they bring stuff of a sentimental attachment, pictures, teddy bears of the which are linked to their childhood, dolls. That's what they do. I bet Wood's wife did the same. Is Shamoun going to claim that Wood's wife was prepubescent? Is Shamoun going to claim Wood is a pedophile? Of course not. That would be silly. So why have a different standard for the Prophet Muhammad, especially considering Islamic law teaches us that Aisha had reached puberty? It's almost like banging your head against a brick wall when dealing with people who just do not take into account authoritative scholarship, good sources, and good reason. William Montgomery Watt, he said it best when he indicated that those who attack Islam with a sexually charged critique are saying more about themselves than Islam. Unfortunately, our brothers Shamoun and Wood fall into this category. My message to them is, have a rethink, the pair of you, because this farcical episode that I'm correcting you on throws your perceived authorities into disrepute, throws your reputations into utter disregard. Have a rethink, please. Now, the real reason why we have such a spectrum of vile slurs against Muslims and Muhammad on the internet coming from evangelical Christian sites is because Muslims and Muhammad, peace be upon him, have a different theology concerning Jesus. I.e., Jesus was a great messenger of God. That's what Muslims believe. Yet Wood and Shamoun and these other internet sites want Muslims to go further and believe that Jesus was God and part of a Trinity. So that's the only reason why Muslims are being given such a raw deal and being lied against. All these wicked, evil lies against Muslims are born out of this fact. But I've got some comfort for the Muslims here. And I'm going to bring this comfort from the Gospel of Matthew. These words are attributed to no less than Jesus himself. Matthew 5, verses 11 to 12. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. And that's what the Muslims are noticing. This verse resonates with the Muslims because they see a huge amount of filth on the internet coming from, surprisingly enough, hardcore Christian sites, just because Muslims believe Jesus to be a prophet. But I've got further comfort for the Muslims, further good news, and it comes from verse 12 of the same passage. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way, they persecuted the prophets who were before you.